From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with RJ Broadhead.
It's Thursday, September the 8th. So happy you decided to tune into Ticats Today. Tiger Cats are 3-9. They're on a bye this week. Next game is September 17th, home to Winnipeg. That's a week from Saturday. A big game. They all will be big games now, and there will also be some standings watching this week. Friday, BC's in Montreal. Montreal's 2 points back, ahead of the Tiger Cats. They do have a game in hand, and then Saturday it's an all-East Division matchup. Toronto's in Ottawa. Ottawa is tied with the Tiger Cats. They have a game in hand, the Red Blacks do. And Toronto, of course, winning 3 of 4 in the regular season against the Tiger Cats, have moved to 6 points ahead. They also have a game in hand, but some interesting quirks in the schedule. Toronto's on the road all of September. Montreal is home all of September. Ticats finished the regular season with a home-and-home against Ottawa. Ottawa has only one game remaining against the West. That's a 10:30 start in BC. Those are never fun for the East Division teams. But there are 6 games remaining for the Tiger Cats. It is a bye week, chance for the coaches to ramp it up, a chance for the players to heal up, then gear up, and a chance for us to chat it up with Drew Stroshine, the Ticats equipment manager. Drew, it's good to have you join me on Ticats Today. Great to see you.
Great. Thanks for having me.
So how long have you been with the Tiger Cats now?
My first year goes back to my first training camp. I like to say it was 2002. I was dropped off by my mom at Brock University on Friday after school, and I would stick around for the weekend. And she'd let me generally skip Monday as long as I did my homework, and then I'd be back the following weekend. And that's kind of when I got started.
Wow! So it has been a couple of decades.
Yeah.
So I asked around. You know, I worked pretty closely with Luke Tasker and Andy Fantus and a few other players. And hey, you know, what can you tell me about Drew? And everyone smiles when they hear your name. They only have good things to say. That has to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, I think I look back and I had posters of Rob Hitchcock and Mike Morreale on my wall, and the guys that were once heroes became friends, and I think that's kind of a really cool segue my life has kind of taken, and it's it's a credit to the organization. Obviously putting hard work in, but also just the people that we're surrounded by all the time.
So you're a Ticats fan your whole life?
I was probably more of a hockey guy until 97. I came to my first Ticats game in 97. My cousin Ray, who actually works with us still on game days, actually brought me down. And he was working with the officials and things. So that was my first taste. And it was a kind of a rough year for the Ticats in 97, but I believe they beat Winnipeg that day. So that was a good day, and I was hooked ever since.
Well, they'd like another good day on September 17th, get back on track in the final 6 games. When did you become equipment manager?
I believe my first, I was the assistant for a few years. I was actually down south for school, and when I came back up, I took over as the assistant. And that would have been 2009 and 10, and then in 11 I took over as the head equipment manager. So, yeah.
and prior to that, just whatever was needed,
I was
you would do.
In the summers, my mom would drop me off. My parents are both steelworkers. My mom worked at Delco. Which is kind of ironic. It's all come full circle now. We've kept it in the family. Yeah. She would drop me off on her way to work and then pick me up on her way back. So I would spend the whole day at Ivor Wynn. I would get practice ready and then tear down, and then she would pick me up around dinner time. And that's kind of what my summer routine was. So,
yeah. How perfect is that for a sports fan and to be able to make a career out of it?
Oh yeah, no, it turned out pretty well, and so it kind of guided me along and pushed me. And I ended up taking the sport management program at Brock, and it kind of pushed me in that direction from a young age that I knew I had to get a degree. I think that was mandatory in my house. But it definitely pushed me into what I would be interested in.
Well, that's good parenting. Get that degree. You never know. It's always, if you use it, great. If not, it's something to fall back on. So you mentioned Ivor Wynne and now Tim Hortons Field. It must be like living in luxury, I would assume, at Tim Hortons Field.
Yeah, it's like I call Ivor Wynne Stadium was like Grandma's house, and I think Grandma got a nice house. But there's a lot of great memories of my childhood wrapped up in that old stadium, and I think to move into this place brand new and kind of getting that whole experience was a pretty cool thing. And now, once you're in here for a while and it becomes your new normal. I think the one thing that's always really stood the test here over these last bunch of years is the way that the facility operates and flows, and it was a credit to how it was built and what it is, and it's a great place to come to work every day.
Yeah, it's obviously the Ticats home, the Forge home in soccer, but it really is multi-purpose. Seems like there's always something going on at Tim Hortons Field. So it's probably never that quiet there, even on a bye week.
No, there's usually things going on here, and we've got a lot of guys running around here, so there's always somebody doing something.
So bye week, you're at the stadium. You don't get the week off. What's going on? The equipment manager's got to work.
Usually what we try to do with my assistant and I and some of our helpers, we'll try and split up the week so we can kind of all get a little bit of time with the family. And I've got two little ones, so getting to drop them off at daycare is a real big treat. And then and doing the pickups, so that's getting a little bit of extra time is always a good thing. Recharge them up a little bit.
Yeah, family's always the most important. I have to tell a story. You and I were talking at training camp. So it was photo day, and Ticats Audio Network, we horned in on the players' photos. I don't even know if they actually took the pictures. I've never seen the photos. I don't know where they are, but we were there. You and I were chatting, and Luke Tasker came up to you. So we were told to wear a Tiger Cats golf shirt and dark pants. And of course, Luke missed the email and showed up in a lighter colored pant. So it was suggested that if he could find darker pants, that he do so. You and I were chatting. Luke came up. He said, hey, Drew, I need your pants. And you said, okay. And I've laughed about it ever since, because to me, the first question I would ask is, why? Why do you need my pants? But there were no questions asked. It was like, hey, you need something, you got it. Is that part of the equipment manager's job?
We're in the problem solving business, not that questions business. And I think Luke's a Cornell guy, and so khakis are part of the that's part of the dress code. So if he needs some black pants anytime, I got Luke's back.
Oh, absolutely. And he said another time he was, I think it was he and Andy, and they were doing some on-field instruction with a group, and he had he said leather shoes or something, and he asked you for other shoes, and you took the shoes off your feet and gave it to him so he could run the drills.
Hey, no, not a problem. Yeah, they're what happens here is, it's kind of a funny dynamic, because in some ways they're like your brothers, in some ways they're like your kids, and I do anything for them, and the roles, if they're reversed, I know it's the same. So it's there's special relationships you build with these guys, because at the end of the day, we end up seeing them more than a lot of our friends and a lot of our family, and that's how everything becomes so tight.
Yeah, it's a great point. For 6 months or more, you're spending a lot of time around everybody, and you must see guys come in maybe quiet as a rookie and then progress through the years and get a little more comfortable with themselves.
Yeah, that you do definitely get to see the growth and the change. And I think that's one of the really exciting things is you see guys come in as 23-year-olds and can leave as very mature 30-year-olds. And it's kind of like watching people unfold before your eyes.
Yeah. So I get to as many practices as I can. I can't get to all of them. Of course, you're at all of them. And I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you, who's the best on the team at making one-handed catches?
One-handed catches. Dunn's probably up there. I would say Dunbar. And then I'm not going to give it to myself. I know you want me to, because I usually have a script in one hand, but
Come on. Come on. Half the time you got two footballs in one hand. Someone's throwing you another one. You're catching it, no problem. It's pretty impressive.
Hey, we got to stay humble around these parts.
Oh, you're really good at the one-handed catch. So it's you knew where I was going, so I couldn't trick you. You're too sharp, Drew. Speaking with Drew Stroshine, the equipment manager of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, this is Ticats Today. Take us through a game day. Because just before you start, Drew, it's pretty amazing. I've been broadcasting since the mid-'90s and doing play-by-play for a game. Say the game starts at 7 o'clock, ends at 10 o'clock. A lot of people think that you work 3 hours. You just worked from 7 to 10, and it all just kind of happened, but that is definitely not the case. There's a ton of prep, and I know for you, it's way more hours. So take us through what a game day is.
Yeah, a game, and I usually say like a game day in the early stages of the day is a lot of the work's kind of been done, because throughout the week we have a lot of buildup and things we have to accomplish during our practice days to kind of get ready for that special one. But I would say, on a 7 o'clock game, we're generally here, early in the afternoon, 12 o'clock, and we'll generally start. Justin, my assistant, likes to get his country music in while he can, so that goes on, and we'll start with velcroing our shoulder pads, so that basically you're velcroing the jerseys onto a lot of the linemen's pads just to try to reduce holding. So most guys are either velcroed or taped. Some guys will want to wear their jerseys out for pregame, so you won't do them right away, but we kind of make sure that's squared up. We'll do our headset tests, make sure the coaches are happy campers when the game kicks off. And then we'll just kind of any little kind of finishing touches that guys need. Some guys will want eye black strips in their lockers or certain sweatbands. So making sure those things are there, so when everybody comes in, they're ready to work, and there's nothing else really on their plate. So we're there to basically try to eliminate any distraction that they have when they first show up. Then as the day kind of progresses and we kind of get closer to our warm-up times, we're keeping guys on time, letting them know when we're going to be out. Guys will have certain requests. Maybe they've had a dream about wearing a white towel or a black towel or a certain undershirt, and that's, we've got to fulfill those dreams. And then we get out there, and it's coach will come do his 5-minute. We'll get our 5-minute warning. He'll do his pregame speech. We'll head out, and as we like to say, if everyone runs out of the tunnel with a jersey and pants on, all is well. So we're ready to rock and roll. Game time is actually relatively calm for us because everything's out there now. We're kind of doing some micromanaging of making sure footballs are good, or if there's some weather expected, or trying to stay on top of things, making sure our locker room, everything's good in the locker room. There's towels out for halftime, or any little things that are going on. You're kind of paying attention for injuries. If we've got to do a face mask removal, or someone hurts their ribs and we have to put a flak jacket on. So you're kind of just watching and making sure everything's kind of going as needed. And then following the game, after a couple songs and a little bit of dancing around, then usually it's the cleanup and getting ready for the next day, because we'll generally have a rundown or something the next day. So the laundry machines are going and making sure everything's ready to go for the next day.
So say a game ends at 10 o'clock. How long are you there after the game?
We'll usually, a home game, we'll usually be out of here. I would say it's generally 2:33 in the morning.
Oh, wow. So you're a 15-hour day, basically.
Yeah, that's kind of usually our standard game day, I would say.
Well, that is fascinating. And so when do the players get their requests in for the eye black or the headbands or whatever, towel or shirt?
There are things you kind of start picking up as you go. Like some guys will just have certain things that they always want, and those are like ingrained in your brain as things that have to be put out for game day. And then obviously some of them will have they'll come out of left field with something that they want, and those ones will be ones that you just adjust on the fly.
So do you have a chart or anything, or is it all up in the old vault there?
A lot of it's in the brain,
Yeah.
And I think, that's just as my assistant, as the years have gone by, in the early stages, he was always puzzled how we could pull these things out. But Now, when he hands out game pants, for example, he knows the sizes just as I do, just by doing it, and it becomes ingrained in your brain. So, and you don't forget those things generally. Like I could still recite people's shoe sizes from 5 years ago, probably. So
That's amazing. It's you have to be part genius for your job.
I think it's almost like a kind of a skilled waiter who can memorize orders, and it's just things they just stick. They've kind of always stuck for me. It's just one of those things that I can remember. I can't remember everything, believe me, but don't ask me birthdays. But that is something that's generally stuck.
Wow. So give a shout out to everybody in your department here, Drew.
Yeah. So we have basically we have our staff that are with us through all of our practices and games. Then we kind of have a game day staff. So Justin Vanderlaan's my assistant, and he's been with me I think for 5 years now, and he does a great job. And he's hardworking, and pays such close attention to detail that I can't do it without him. Dylan Atack, who's been with me, I think it was 2004. He started showing up to practices, and he's been a staple ever since. He's also better known as the mayor.
Yes.
We love having around, and Jesse Horvath is another volunteer we've had for quite a number of years, and he helps us with a lot of our practice setup, and usually works closely with the officials on game days. And then on game days we have Dave Wright, who's actually a police officer by day, equipment guy on game days. So he provides us a lot of help and some premium service for our players and coaches on game day. And last but not least, my cousin Ray Nutley, who he's the one who first kind of got me involved, and he works with us on game days as well. So I got a great, you can't, it's far from a one-man band. You need a lot of great help because there's a lot of work to be done. And our department's full with great people. So we're very fortunate.
Yeah, well, it sounds like quite a great operation. Maybe it's in a way sort of like a referee. If you never get talked about, it's good news. No news is good news because it means everything's going great.
Definitely. Yeah, we like to operate in the background that way for sure.
So 45 players on a game roster. How much equipment do you have to bring for a road game? And I know weather matters, and I guess that's another question too. How far in advance are you checking the weather? Like now, it's probably pretty good, but it's going to change.
Oh yeah, bye week's nice because bye week's you don't have to check your weather every waking moment. But as soon as for practice, for how much it influences, what footballs we're going to use, and making sure rain suits are ready for coaches and visors off or whatever we have to. There's lots of things that kind of go into the weather. When we travel for a road game, one of the things that makes it a lot easier now from years past is chartering and chartered flights. Our gear stays with us. So basically what will happen that on a day 3, which would basically be 2 days before the game, we would have everything ready to go. I would say we'd roughly travel 70 hockey bags. Hockey equipment bags would be basically what you would kind of chalk it up as, because that's what their equipment will go in. But we'll have about 70 of those, and then 14 oversized cases or trunks that will carry everything from coaches' apparel, uniforms, our speakers for the locker room, our athletic therapists things, whether it's bracing or tape or alternate footwear if we're going into inclement weather. If we're dealing with a frozen field, that's one thing. When we're fortunately for us, when we're only playing on grass in Toronto, so it's a little bit closer. But when you're going to Toronto, making sure you have grass footwear in case it starts to rain or if the field's just in poor condition. Rain, but yeah, your rain gear. When we're going to BC, what a luxury of not having to bring rain jackets.
Yeah.
But you can't get caught with your pants down because late in the season it can still be cold in BC Place if you get the wrong day. So you still have to make sure you have some sort of layers. But you don't need the player parkas. But yeah, all these little things that kind of go into your packing throughout the week, that kind of comes on that day 3 to make sure we have everything. We'll have a truck arrive. We'll load the truck. They'll beat us up to Hamilton Airport where we'll load it in the plane. we'll all get on, and then we'll have a truck organized for wherever we're landing to meet our plane, basically get the equipment, take it to the new stadium. We'll go to the stadium to unpack. And then following the game, we'll have a truck arrive, load up that equipment back, get it back to the airport, on the plane, back to Hamilton, truck waiting. It goes onto that truck. It arrives at our stadium, and we'll unpack when we get back too. So,
well, that takes some coordination too.
Yeah, but it's nice this way in the sense that we're not putting it on a random cargo jet flight or putting things on a truck to drive across, where things can kind of go a little more sideways. We're kind of with it all the way, which, definitely puts our mind at ease a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. Some of those oversold flights, and they want to take some heavy objects off, and it's probably,
yeah.
So 70 bags. So that's roughly 3-4 times the equipment that a hockey team would have. And I know a lot of people have played hockey and kind of know the bus trips. So that really puts it into perspective that you got quite a bit more than a hockey team, which would be expected with more players.
We're heavy. Yeah, we're definitely an equipment heavy sport. But it's when you get into all the things that go into it, like football bags and hand warmer bag. Like there's so many, not to mention the actual like spare leggings and compression shirts and socks and glove, whatever things you need to have just to outfit 45 people. There's a lot of things, a lot of equipment.
So let me give you a scenario on the sideline. The game's going on. Let's use Don Jackson as an example. He's on a hot streak, just ran for a first down, buckle on his chin strap breaks. So he's got to come to the sideline, but he's hot, so you want to get him back out there as soon as possible. What happens?
Yeah, I would say probably NASCAR pit crew style. You're trying we take pride in not missing any plays, but it's something we can adjust. Like a lot of these things we can fix relatively quickly just by what we see it. I said one of the biggest challenges when guys break things, because in the heat of the moment, all that they understand is that what they have is broken. And so you're not really going to get a good explanation. You're going to have to do a once over to see what's actually needs to be fixed, because they're handing it to you and they say it doesn't work. And you have to first find the problem and then fix the problem.
You're an equipment doctor.
Yes, that's it.
Ticats fans, it's time to ride on our strength. From now until October 13th, purchase 4 eligible Hercules passenger or light truck tires to receive a $100 Ticats rewards card and be entered to win our road trip sweepstakes, available at participating Active Green and Ross Ontario locations, or visit HerculesTires.com/AGR rewards. Something I'm always interested in. Again, we're with Drew Stroshine, the equipment manager of the Tiger Cats. I'm RJ Broadhead, and I always bother Luke with it because I'm a bit of a stats guy. I keep track of the uniforms and the record in the uniforms. How much input do you have in what uniforms the Tiger Cats wear on a particular day?
Well, we've actually shifted it from a few years ago, where now at the beginning of the season, you have to declare all your uniform combinations before the season starts.
And that's a league rule?
This is a league rule. So basically what will happen is we'll get a form that we'll fill in with our home uniform combinations. So we'll submit all those first, and then we'll receive that from all our opponents. And then we have to basically base our road uniform off that. So that's how in Winnipeg this season, they chose to do a whiteout. That's how we were wearing our home uniforms in Winnipeg this year. That's how that happens. Now, generally, it's kind of left up to me and Coach O, and coaches in the past have kind of just let me go with it. Now we have, obviously, if there's a third uniform we're unveiling, such as our hammer signature this year, or if we want to do a blackout that our front office would like to accomplish, then those are things that are obviously going to go into that equation. We take into account, some of our win-loss records or signature games that we've played, in that uniform. sometimes weather will play into it. How long will be there's a few things that kind of go into that choice. Obviously, not wearing black on black in a summer afternoon game is kind of ideal. As much as the guys downstairs want it,
Yeah.
sometimes I have to, take that one out of their hands.
Yeah. A little logic involved.
And obviously playing into tradition, because we're going to obviously wear black and yellow in our traditional uniform on a Labor Day Classic, for example, where we're going to wear our normal uniform. So there are some things that you kind of play into, try to keep it fresh with enough change for them, but also having, sticking to some of our traditional points.
So you do know the record in the uniforms?
We kind of take it into account. Sometimes there's, you're kind of playing a balancing act. You have to realize, like, sometimes you don't understand how much the DBs, for example, will hound me to wear white on white.
Huh.
And then the offensive lineman will scold me for wearing white on white. So there's a balancing act of things going, and where we think we've had success wearing certain colors, but not putting too much emphasis on it, because we plan on winning in any uniform combination we have.
Yes, absolutely. So with the uniforms and when you wear them, it kind of ties into this next question. Do you have any superstitions? Because players, a lot of them have them, but what about you?
Yeah, I don't have, I wouldn't say I'm overly superstitious. I think, there's things you kind of get accustomed to wearing. Like, I probably wear close to the same thing for most of the games until the weather changes. Then I'll kind of have something I wear when it's colder. Some of the equipment managers around the league were notorious for wearing shorts, regardless of weather. That was never my thing. But I would say probably the only ritual, I would say it's probably more of a ritual than a superstition, is Rankins on Main Street for steak and eggs with Dylan on our home games is probably our biggest ritual that we have. And I'll get on his case when he has to leave me to go meet a celebrity or do something else, skip out on my breakfast. So, but that's probably the biggest thing I've got.
Well, that's a pretty good one. Steak and eggs, you can never go wrong. And hanging out with Dylan, again,
it's a win-win, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Dylan's a lot like you. Anybody, former player, current player, you ask about him, they all love him. So that's a good tradition to keep going. Can you tell us what the weirdest superstition one of the players has had, or is that trying to reveal too much?
Yeah, we don't have it. I think baseball, when I think of like baseball.
Oh yeah.
And even when I talk with some of we're close with the Bulldogs equipment staff, and I think even in hockey, they probably have things a little bit more superstition than we do. I think we definitely have guys that want to wear a specific shirt or a specific pair of socks. I remember Peter Diakowski, one of his socks went missing, and he had a missing poster up looking for this very specific sock that had a hole in the toe. Ike Brown, who was our strength coach last season, and he's actually with LSU now, but when I had him as a player, he actually wore an old high school uniform. I believe it was his uncle's or something. He would wear that underneath his game jersey. But they some of them will have superstitions of what they're wearing, but nothing too crazy going on.
So you mentioned it off the top, Drew. Again, we're with Drew Stroshine, the equipment manager of the Tiger Cats. Been a couple of decades you've been around the team. That's a lot of players. Who was a guy that always cracked you up?
There's a lot of them. We usually have a good cast of characters. I think when I think back at it, Dave Stahl is a guy who was always good for a prank and still a guy we're close with today. Arlen Bruce III was always good at cracking me up, and Lawrence Gordon, an old defensive back we had, was one whose voice always had me in stitches. So and his energy always had me in stitches. So he was. Those are three that probably come to mind. But I would say for best laugh, because that's a whole nother one, because that one can bring humor in its own. Ted Laurent is our current winner right now, and we'll give special mention. Jagera Davis has a really good one, and Chris Schelling from back in the day was another one that I remember.
That's great. It's been a tough season as far as the results are concerned, but 6 games, and we all know what's happened in these divisions, so things could really change in this final third. Does your job change at all if the team's 9-3 or 3-9?
I don't think so. I think Coach O stresses it, and it's something I think we believe through and through, is that you control your own energy and what you bring to work, and regardless of what's kind of going on, you have to do your job, and you have to be your authentic self, and you can't really let any results or things kind of get in the way of that. We have games to win. I want to win preseason games. I want to win every game, and you have to approach it that way every week, because that's what we're basically trying to do. And as I mentioned with my assistant in the early stages when he first started with me, and I said, you got to remember, for some of these guys, they may only get one game as a pro. It may be their only experience, and we have to make that a special experience for them, and something that they'll remember, because it may be a game you forget, but it may be something that they remember every detail to. So I think putting as much effort into all of them is just as important, because we're trying to win all of them.
Well, Drew, this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed chatting with you. Always good to see you around the stadium as well, and appreciate you giving some insight into what your job is. And I think I'll speak on behalf of all the fans as well. Job well done.
Thank you. And thanks for having me.
Drew Stroshine, the equipment manager of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. That's a terrific talk we just had on Ticats Today. We'll have a stat chat tomorrow on Ticats Today. We'll take a look at where the Ticats are. There's some good, some not so good, but some might look not so good, and it's not so bad when you look at some historical stats. So Jeff Girodat, our Ticats Audio Network statistician, will join me tomorrow on Ticats Today. And a reminder that the next Tiger Cats game is Saturday, September 17th against Winnipeg. Get tickets. Let's pack Tim Hortons Field and finish this season out strong in these final 6 games and get the Tiger Cats into the playoffs. I'm RJ Broadhead. Thanks for joining us on Ticats Today.
Ticats Today can be heard every weekday, and we would like to hear from you. Email us at gameday@ticats.ca. Have a question or an opinion? We want to hear it. That's gameday@ticats.ca. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.